Hello, Anne-Chloé.
Hi, Julia.
I'm really, touched by legends that I heard splash across the oceans all the way to Aotearoa, New Zealand, from a space that you co-created together with Vera Franco and several other women, which was a Women of the Earth Possibility Laboratory, or Women's Laboratory. Would you say something about
Yes.
what it was and like what the purpose of it was?
It's a good question. I don't know if I had a very clear purpose and intention. It was something that came up on my bench as many, but not all, of the projects that I've been working on, which is it needs to be done. And Vera and I need to hold space for it. And we had been talking about it for a few months, even maybe a few years, and it was never really coming together and being, okay, now we have a date and now we have a place. And so even when we started, we thought we'll do it in Croatia, we'll do it in a new environment. And it wasn't coming together until one woman said, no, Portugal is the land of the feminine right now in Europe. And so it needs to happen in Portugal. And so until we had a date and a place set, there was not really a purpose or an agenda until the space started working on me and being, what can we really create? Like, what is this about? Women who have been on the path because they were part of possibility management. That means they've done an expand the box, they were participated in a few labs, they're already delivering non-material value. So that was one of our requirement with Vera, is like, this is a space for women who are already delivering part of their work in their archetypal lineage. And what is this? What is this coming together? And so the purpose unfolded in the lab, but it wasn't before.
I guess the question is, what is the necessity that you see for women to come together and go through their healing processes and their evolutionary processes?
It's funny that you ask it that way, because I never found myself really identifying as doing women's work. Like, really, the first women's space, really intentional women's space that would also be a training, was this year. But I've been delivering work for now 6 years almost. And so I think I'm really still in the discovery of the power of women coming together. And the lab was a turning point for me. And the turning point was, if we put women together who can feel, who want to go on an evolution and transformational path, who want to meet other women despite all the terror and the fears and the betrayals and the expectation, like everything that's buffering to actually have a deep intimacy and connection with women. When we come together in a space, what happens is reality. Like, what happens is authenticity, to a degree that I've never seen women be so naked when there's even one man around. Like, when there's one man, like, all the strategies come up, all the walls come up, even in possibility labs. And for me, the image that I keep getting of the authenticity of women is, here I am at the flip chart board delivering a map, and women are just sobbing and sharing, like, what is the map doing to them, and raging, and like standing up and say, I'm done, like, it's enough, I don't want to be a slave anymore, I don't want to be manipulated anymore, I don't want to wait anymore, I don't want to like lower my standard, like lower what I want to fit into the the world of men, you know, which is really what we've discovered. And that's more of a men's research, but that I also hear from it, is the world of men in the patriarchy is a commitment to mediocrity. It's a commitment to doing the least amount of work possible to just pass. And this is not just from school. It comes from just this, okay, I don't have to do work. And so this discovery of women have been matching the world of men, like their whole life. Women have been trying to match Like, how do I live in the world of men? And they thought, you know, they had to work hard or be strong or be tough or be weak, you know, or be adaptive. And the discovery was like, for what? You know, what are we really getting out of this? Well, the result is pretty mediocre, because that's the commitment of men. And so one of the big discovery that women made, and also I made in this women's lab, is I've been sacrificing immense aliveness. I mean, I'm not saying some aliveness. I'm saying 99% of aliveness for men's love, men's protection, a sense of safety, a sense of comfort, you know, having enough money, but it wasn't so much, you know, there's the material part, but somehow we were really stuck at, I want men's approval. Like, I want men's love, and I'm willing to sacrifice my aliveness. Well, that's the survival strategy. I'm willing to sacrifice my aliveness for men's love. And finally, in this, when there was finally space for this aliveness to come out and to be together in it, like to really support each other and to celebrate each other and to kick each other's, you know, ass in a way, being like, I want you to speak, you know, what are you not saying? Like, please give me my X on the map, you know, please, what possibilities do you have for me? This deep aliveness, then what, you know, the men's love and protection and the safety and the comfort was just gray, just paled in comparison to what we can create when we come together and have a culture that does not force us to play, you know, the usual games that women play together: competition, scarcity, comparing, judging, having this ongoing you know, judging voices, but also self-doubt. So judging of others, judging of ourselves. And that, if I can, you know, how does that happen? I think for me, that was really the big question, is how do we even get to a place where the aliveness is so rich and so abundant and so ecstatic that women would never want to go back to anything else, like anything lower than that? And the answer was, we need to leave the patriarchy, like immediately. And for me, that was also very much a surprise that that was possible, because I had been in some women's spaces and also very honest women's spaces where it was about, look, the patriarchy is not outside of us, it's inside of us, which was already a revolution, I think, for, you know, coming from a movement of feminism and liberation of women's movement, and finally, you know, getting radical honesty and like radical responsibility of saying, hey, we're in it, like we're supporting the patriarchy as much as the men. It's like, if the women left the patriarchy now, the patriarchy would vanish, it would collapse like overnight. And so I think that was an immense step of women taking radical responsibility of saying, hey, we've been playing the game and we've got to benefit from it. And so I've been in spaces where women start really dissecting, okay, what are my patriarchal patterns with other women? What are my patriarchal patterns with men? You know, how am I using my sexual energy? How am I competing? And transforming this. And somehow, for me, it's like I discovered the possibility of actually popping out or sourcing. It's like cavitating the space where women live in a different culture and where those survival strategies are no longer needed. And so when they're no longer needed, well, they shed off really easily. Like, it's much more elegant and like smooth in a way to shed off survival strategy, instead of being, okay, I'm in the patriarchy, I'm trying to exit the patriarchy, at the same time I'm still in the patriarchy, so I still need all these survival strategies, you know, to go around. And I remember, actually, it was in New Zealand when I visited New Zealand earlier this year. One woman said, God, I realize how much revenge I have against men. And would you help me, heal this revenge and get through this revenge? And I said, let me think about it. And when I thought about it is, okay, if you give up your revenge against men, what are you left with to protect yourself? So if you don't have your center, grounding cord bubble, your personal bubble of space, a strong sword out, clarity about, I'm holding space for our culture of relating. Your culture doesn't apply to me. I get it that you live in a different culture. It just doesn't apply to me. And in that space, yes, the revenge can fall off. But until that is cavitated and practiced and really sourced, like a woman can source it, I say, keep the revenge. Otherwise, you'll be naive. Otherwise, you'll be abused. At least the revenge creates this buffer of not letting yourself be abused by, really most men out there will consider a woman property, something they can own, something they can use, something they can have sex with, something that the woman should take care of them, like, etc. And I think you might have another question, but what I just want to say that what I discovered is there's a much bigger contrast than I thought between patriarchy and archiarchy. But before, I thought it was kind of like the cultures are like this and really next to each other. And, at the point where you're sort of leaping, it's like, oh, is this patriarchal? Is this archiarchal? And actually, there's a universe. It's like the Grand Canyon, a universe of contrast. And that in archiarchy, and that was a big leap for me, as I realized that there was part of me still standing in patriarchy being, oh, but I understand why they behave like this. Men and women, oh, I understand. Oh, they're trying. Oh, I'm being too much. I'm being too demanding. I'm being too, like, I'm asking for the impossible. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Like, how can I demand for people to relate to me in archiarchy? And actually, the jump, like to move your point of origin into archiarchal culture sourced by women. And maybe that's something that I would add, is that what happened is the discovery, and maybe that was, the confusion or the blurriness for me, was that, oh, men and women are holding space for archiarchy. Okay, but when I think about that, is most men, really most men, and even men on the path of evolution, are not willing, like, or are not yet ready to have this huge contrast between patriarchal life and archiarchal life. So they don't have that contrast. So therefore they blur the line. Therefore we blur the line. It's like, oh, is this patriarchal, is this archiarchal? Okay, 27 women who come together and say, we hold space for a regenerative culture that feeds our soul, that feeds our heart, that will take care of our home, meaning planet Earth, like not a house. That would be a patriarchal concept, that my house is my home. No, planet Earth. Or that will take care of my children. Something else is happening. Really, something else is happening. And that's when the contrast happened of being, oh my God, I've been playing dead. I've been a zombie in patriarchy my whole life, because this is technicolor and this is gray. And so when I mean archiarchy, as of now, it's mostly archiarchy, a regenerative culture sourced by women, but it's not only a women's culture. It's a culture with men and women, but sourced by women in radical responsibility.
I'm really touched hearing you. It wakes a part up in me that knows about that. And
I want to say something about this, because it was shocking for women. That is something I said the first day. I said, if we peel away the layers of survival, naturally, a regenerative culture is in our cells as women. It is there. We have the information, like we have the seed. I often talk about women carrying a seed of regenerative culture. The seed is there naturally. And the peeling off the survival strategy, then this culture comes so easily. It's like breathing for us about how do men and women relate? How do we raise children? How do we, our guardian of our land, and guardian of our spaces, like, and so on and so forth. And so I think it's really accurate, the sensation of it's in there, it's in you.
So how does that go? Or how did it go in the lab? Or what do you know about this shift? Like for women, how do they shift, like really relocate into archiarchy when it's not, as you described it?
It's a very intense and loud process that takes about 3 to 4 hours. And it takes a group of women to do it. It takes women to be radically honest about, did you really cross the line? And so this is about crossing the line. It's about, I decide. But it's not about pushing ourselves being, I should be over there, because that's patriarchal. So then you find yourself immediately in the patriarchy. So it was very easy actually to notice, if you pressure yourself, you're in the patriarchy. If you're trying to do it perfect, you're in the patriarchy. If you're trying to manipulate others to do it, you're in the patriarchy. If you think you're too weak, or you don't know how it goes, you're in the patriarchy. And so what we had was, we know what the patriarchy is like. We just know what it's like. And how do you get to this line? And really, for us, it was a physical line. It's like, how do you get to this line? How do you cross it from an authentic clarity that this is over? It's really as simple as this, is my life in the patriarchy is over. I leave it behind. And it's a shift of identity, and of course, it doesn't mean perfection. And of course, we'll be faced with our usual patterns. But as I said, is if you cross the line, then the patterns will shed off so easily, because, okay, I don't need this anymore. Just, I've been used to it. I didn't even notice I was doing it. But then any patriarchal pattern showing up in archiarchy, it's like, it's you see it, like, it's really loud. It's got, why would you do this? And so it's called escaping the patriarchy. And it's a 3-hour process, debaptizing yourself from the religion of patriarchy. And then archiarchy needs to be created. It needs to be sourced and inhabited and evolved and unfolded. And over there, it's not like, this is how it goes. This is how it goes, or the certainty, you're back in patriarchy. It's like, okay, I get it. And women were getting it. They get close to the line and they're like, okay, I'm doing patriarchy, and let me start over. And it was really touching. One woman, she's a young woman. She was one of the youngest women who was there. She's probably 20 years old now. And she's been living under this entire pressure, like just pressuring herself to be perfect and to be a good student and a good daughter. And she stood at the line for 2.5 hours. And sometimes she would put one foot over the line. I mean, no, I'm pressuring myself. That's not real. Like, she would be her own compass. And women would be talking to her and we would be with her, but she was her own compass. They were like, okay, I'm pressuring myself. I'm back in patriarchy. And she looked at me at some point and she said, Anne-Chloé, how do I cross? Like, how do I get off this pressure? I just don't know how to live without pressure. And my answer was, you're not angry enough about it. You're not done. Like, you're not angry. Or like, this is shit. This is horrible. This is, I'm torturing myself. And it took her 2.5 hours to get to this place of saying, to get to this clarity of, I've been torturing myself and it's not even been my decision. Like, it's not even been, it is because I live in the patriarchal culture and being angry enough about the patriarchy. And so this is what I discovered, is that this escaping the patriarchy, it starts with huge amount of rage, to finally rage together, okay, to not rage against each other, because that we know how to do this mostly unconsciously, but to rage together, being this, what have we sacrificed? How are we turning ourselves crazy? Like, how are we bending ourselves? How are we killing ourselves? How are we killing our children? And to really rage for a while, to really get to the bottom of it, like to the scrap of it, of being so outraged, so indignified, like, say, how could I have done this to myself? It is over now. It is over now. And after that, there's many other feelings that come. One of them is fear, a lot of fear of, like, am I going to be alone? Is there other women that I can do this with? Who can I talk to? Because it's such a revolutionary idea to exit the patriarchy completely, not as a, intellectual concept, not as something to discuss, not as something to dissect, but just to say it's over. And so there's all these fears, but really where we got is an immense grief, like to really grieve it without being a victim of it, but really grieve, what have we lost? What did we give away? What, all these moments, all these interaction with other women, all these possibilities of having a celebration for menstruation, for growing up, for taking a stand for ourselves. Like, so much celebration was lost, so much aliveness, so much care, and at a larger scale of, if this aliveness had been cared and nurtured and flourished, and like really held also in the hands of other women, which were our mothers and our grandmothers, who did not hold space for that aliveness to really come forth, would there be war today? Probably not. And what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. So, and I think when we finally got to this grief, there was enough space in our garden, if I can call it like that, because we have a seed. There was enough space in our garden of being, now I can create from creation, like from the everything, like from this aliveness instead of from reaction. And I think that's something that we really noticed as women, is that how good we are at just reacting. Something happens, can I help? Okay, that's the patriarchy. And so make space in yourself, what comes alive. And that space, I think, is, if I wish, and I've been in contact with many of the women who were in the Women Lab, but for me, it's like, if there's one wish that I would have for women who exit women's spaces and Women Lab and escaping the patriarchy process, is such a cherishment of their garden, that they're unwilling to let it go in the face of any kind of subtle patriarchal move from other people or from themselves. And to be in love with their garden so much, to respect themselves so much, to have enough dignity, and also what we came to, like arrogance, of saying, this is my garden. And if you don't understand, it's not my problem. It is not my problem if you don't understand. And that was an awakening, I think, for women, to be, I can be arrogant. Like, I can say stuff like that. So we did some demonstration of like, okay, how, because women were asking, like, what are the words? Like, what words do I use when a man, says this and this to me, especially in relating? So and I said, okay, let's do a demonstration. So there was a woman and another woman role playing the men. And the woman just couldn't, she was like, I don't have the words. So I would say, well, what, try this, say this. She would look at me and she said, I can say this. I can say this conversation is over. I can say, if you go exchange sexual energy with women, with women in, your work, or you go and have coffee, you just sleep in a different bed. And the big bed is my bed. You go sleep in the single bed. I said, I can say this. It's like, yes, you get it. It's you holding space for the culture that is happening in the bedroom, in the house, in your relating, in your neighborhood, you holding space. And so it's your bed. It is your bed. And the single bed, it can be the patriarchal bed for a while. And what I've heard, and those are whispers, so they're just really coming out. But what I've heard from men is, when the women put the bar here, I can do it. I can meet them there to some degree or another. They were holding the bar so low. I'm just going to meet the bar because I can have sex and they can cook for me when they hold the bar so low, and they can hold my hand or watching a movie, whatever. When the women hold the bar low, men will just meet it where it is. Women have it's like raise the bar. Some men say, okay, let's play there. And that's really also what happened in the Archiarchy Maker Fair, to some degree or another, which was the space right after the women's lab. Men arrived on the Sunday night, which was the last day of the women's lab, which was a real test and a trial for us about, like, how serious are we about holding our own culture, Archiarchy sourced from women. And women just were marvelous. For me, it was like I was just cheering the whole way, keeping their centered, not giving their, attention away, not trying to rescue men, and being welcome to the women, welcome to Archiarchy sourced by women. So this is not a women's space, it's Archiarchy sourced by women. And after a few days, men could start being, being, okay, I have no idea how this goes. And the door is open. That's what I mean. It's like we were having the door open. However, the door was open, and any patriarchal behavior, we say, we can't cross the door. That will not let you cross the door. That neither. Okay, this, playing, being in your swamp will not unlock the Archiarchy source from women. Trying to have guilt will not unlock Archiarchy source by women. Like, so on, we were saying no, 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 until there was maybe, okay, that's a yes. And then they get a real X on the map about, what can they really create? Well, for now, not much. It doesn't matter because we're creating. The women are creating. Women are holding space. Yeah.
One legend I heard about this Archiarchy Makers Fair, and which is a direct result from the women's lab beforehand, was these women standing by each other's side to notice when a woman would allow, for example, a man to enter her space energetically or invade her space, and to be on each other's side to say, hey, what's happening that you would tolerate that? So rather than rescuing her and going, hey, man, get out of her space, that women would stand so close by each other's side with this clear purpose of, from what you shared, and this clear purpose,
I mean, and for me, the revolution was, I've never seen, I can't remember really, and maybe this was not never, but I have rarely seen women do that, for each other. It's like when there's a man around, it's like, how can the men be comfortable? Like, how can he be happy? Like, how, because he's going to shout, he's going to, and there's really also like cellular fears of we're going to be hurt, like physically hurt of, and that comes from lives and lives of being at war and being subject to pillage and rape and invasion. And so for me, it was that the instant the men would try to invade another woman's space, somebody else would say, hey, it's happening. What do you need? What, how come you're not speaking up? And I'm going to stand by you, and nothing will move in this space until you speak up. Nothing will move. I will not let this slide by as, oh, she couldn't do it. She couldn't speak up. And men being uncomfortable, scared or whatever. I was like, not my problem. That is a different culture. They were behaving from a different culture. And there's a way that it can slide by like water on feathers, because for me, at some degree, it's like walking down Chinatown and people eating with chopsticks. And, I don't know how to eat with chopsticks. Let's imagine. It's like, okay, they're doing their thing. But I'm not part of their culture. And so men being disturbed or being angry at us, or it's like, you're in a culture that it doesn't apply to me. I'm in this culture with this woman. What are you going to do? How are you going to take a stand for yourself? Be, dignified. I want to be with a dignified woman. And that was, it was an incredible experience to like call each other's dignity and integrity. Yeah.
Thank you for taking that bold stand and empowering women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to roll on. Women at the end of the lab said, we need more women's lab. And so there's women's lab being planned out in Brazil and maybe in Germany. And
come to New Zealand.
Okay. I'm just really, what I got at the end of this lab is it's possible. I think before I had an idea, okay, maybe there's a potential. And now I experienced it for 5 days of it's possible, and it happens. And it's nothing, and it was work. Like we were working until 10 p.m. and women were saying, I want an EHP on a break. I wanted to have a standing rage hold. Women want it. They were like, I'm on this path and nothing can stop me. And so even I had to slow them down and say, you have a nervous system, and you can only take that much. But they were like, oh, I can taste water. I've been thirsty. We've just been so thirsty for something real. And it's like, now there's this pond. It's like, I want to drink. And so they're just drinking it dry. So.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia.